Wi-Fi. It's something that everybody loves. It's a universal language. It's almost like the Force from Star Wars, where it's just about everywhere. It connects us. It's almost synonymous with connectivity to the internet. But of course, Wi-Fi is so much more than that. It not only connects us to the internet, but it also connects all kinds of devices to allow different types of technology to work together seamlessly. It's a very powerful, ubiquitous technology that's important in pretty much any connectivity arsenal. And like any technology, it has progressed over time via technological standards. And just this past January, there is a new Wi-Fi standard that's been out called Wi-Fi 7. We thought this was a good time to take a look at Wi-Fi from a wide angle. Take a look at this new Wi-Fi 7 standard from a mobile internet perspective for our audience of mobile users who live, work, and travel in vans, boats, and RVs, and give our recommendations for Wi-Fi gear and which Wi-Fi standards to use, which ones are obsolete, and what to look for when choosing Wi-Fi gear in your mobile internet arsenal. So stay tuned. We'll dig into these details, dig into the standards, especially this new Wi-Fi 7 standard, and give our recommendations. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Andy with the Mobile Internet Resource Center, and today we are going to talk about Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi industry and Wi-Fi standards, especially the new Wi-Fi 7 standard that came out in January of 2024. Now, we're filming this video in the spring of 2024, so if you're watching this at a future date, just keep that in mind that technology does progress. So if you're watching this at a later date, that things may have changed from the recommendations that we do give in this video. So to start with the basics, Wi-Fi is the friendly name for a set of wireless networking standards and protocols that were developed and are maintained by the Wi-Fi Alliance, which is a trade organization that maintains and certifies those standards so that all the products you buy that have that certification will work well together and meet those standards. Now, the way Wi-Fi works is that you have an access point that has channels and works on specific frequencies, and other devices can connect to that access point wirelessly by connecting via those channels and on those frequencies, as long as the device has the appropriate name and password. It's a very straightforward technology, and it has proven to be very reliable over the years, which is what makes it so popular. So, since Wi-Fi is a wireless technology, it does require wireless spectrum. Now, a trade organization like the Wi-Fi Alliance, they do not have any control over wireless spectrum. Wireless spectrum is controlled by governments, and specifically agencies in those governments. Here in the United States, that is the FCC. Now, the FCC has currently allocated 3 blocks of spectrum for use with Wi-Fi. That is the 2.4 gigahertz band, the 5 gigahertz band, and the 6 gigahertz band. We'll talk briefly about each of these, starting with the 2.4 gigahertz band. This was the original Wi-Fi band that was allocated when Wi-Fi was first created back in the 1990s. It is also the smallest band, the one with the least capacity, the one that is most prone to congestion, but it is also one that has the longest range. So there are some trade-offs there. Now, because it is the least capacity and the most prone to congestion, the FCC quickly realized that more capacity would be needed. So in 1999, the 5 gigahertz band was allocated, and that greatly increased the amount of spectrum available for Wi-Fi. And so the 5 gigahertz spectrum provided a lot more room, many more channels to use, solved most of the congestion issues, until relatively recently, and it really allowed Wi-Fi to grow and become ubiquitous as a technology. But 5 gigahertz has become crowded, has become capacity constrained, and so in 2020, the FCC opened up the 6 gigahertz frequency band for use with Wi-Fi. And this is a huge chunk of spectrum that is not only provides a lot more capacity than both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz put together, but also provides a lot more speed. So it is a huge bonus to the future of Wi-Fi in terms of what it will bring as far as the ability to provide extra capacity and speed. However, the downside of 6 gigahertz it is shorter range than both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So it is really ideal for more short range local networking. It is not ideal for longer range connections such as Wi-Fi as WAN, connecting to campground or marina Wi-Fi, things like that. Additionally, since the 6 gigahertz frequency is fairly new, it is only available on new devices that support the Wi-Fi 6E and the Wi-Fi 7 standards. And next, we will talk about all the different Wi-Fi standards and how they are important and which ones should matter to you. So one key aspect to understand about Wi-Fi are the different standards that are out there for different Wi-Fi gear. Now, technology progresses, and how technology progresses in most areas, including Wi-Fi, are different generations or different technological standards. Now, for Wi-Fi, there are currently 4 different standards that are out there that you may see. Now, the Wi-Fi Alliance has simplified these for consumers, and the current ones are Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6. There's also a subset of that called Wi-Fi 6E, which we'll get into, and Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi 7 is the newest standard that was just published in January of 2024. And now that that is published, the Wi-Fi Alliance is busy working on the next standard, which will be Wi-Fi 8, but that won't be out until probably 2028, so way far in the future. But it's an important reminder that technology is always advancing. So the difference between these standards is important consideration when you are looking to upgrade or purchase new Wi-Fi gear or gear that is Wi-Fi capable. So let's go over each one of these in a little bit more detail and take a look at the benefits and downsides, and if it's worth it to maybe upgrade, or whether it's worth it to consider, especially springing for this newest Wi-Fi 7 generation gear that has just come out. So looking at the different Wi-Fi generations, and starting with the oldest one is Wi-Fi 4. This came out in 2009, and we consider it to be obsolete at this point. Well, it did support both the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequencies. Support for 5 gigahertz was optional, and there is a lot of gear out there that did not support the 5 gigahertz frequency. So if you do have Wi-Fi 4 gear out there, we suggest that you consider looking at upgrades. Moving on to Wi-Fi 5, this came out in 2013, and it was the mainstream option for almost a decade. It really only became eclipsed in consumer gear around 2022 when Wi-Fi 6 became the mainstream Wi-Fi option. So there is a ton of Wi-Fi 5 gear out there. Chances are you have some in your arsenal right now, and it provided a ton of benefits over Wi-Fi 4. A lot of speed benefits, a lot of reliability benefits, and it did a lot better with congestion. and other features. So this is being phased out at this time, so we wouldn't recommend buying new gear that has Wi-Fi 5. If you're buying new, you should be looking at Wi-Fi 6 or better. However, if you still have Wi-Fi 5 gear, there's nothing wrong with it. It is still a good standard to have, and there's no reason to get rid of it at this time. Now for Wi-Fi 6, this is the current mainstream choice. Most consumer gear coming out right now and for the last year or so has had Wi-Fi 6 on it. And this is what we would recommend you look for as your minimum if you are purchasing new mobile internet gear that has Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi 6 standard does come with some significant advantages over Wi-Fi 5 in terms of peak speeds and efficiency. It does in particular have some power efficiency advantages, which is good for battery operated devices like phones and mobile hotspots. And overall, it is a superior standard to Wi-Fi 5, and it is what we recommend. Now, there is a subset of Wi-Fi 6 called Wi-Fi 6E. Now, the normal Wi-Fi 6 standard supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, but the FCC, as we talked about earlier, came out with the new 6 gigahertz frequency band for Wi-Fi. And what happened, that happened after the Wi-Fi 6 standard was finalized. And so Wi-Fi 6E basically adds the 6 gigahertz frequency onto Wi-Fi 6. So if you see Wi-Fi 6 on a piece of gear, you know it supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, but not 6 gigahertz. However, if you see that a piece of gear supports Wi-Fi 6E, then you know it supports 2.4, 5, and the new 6 gigahertz frequency. So the Wi-Fi 6E standard is also a mainstream choice right now. However, it is not nearly as common in gear today as Wi-Fi 6. It seems a lot of manufacturers are sort of skipping over it to head straight to Wi-Fi 7, which is the new standard that just got approved in January of 2024. This one we'll dive a little bit deeper into. So Wi-Fi 7 is out and it provides a lot of improvements, including some unique things that we haven't seen from Wi-Fi before. And we'll concentrate basically on two main areas. One is what the Wi-Fi Alliance is calling extremely high throughput. And this is basically a raw performance increase over Wi-Fi 6. And the Wi-Fi Alliance is saying that the peak performance numbers over Wi-Fi 6 are 5 times greater with Wi-Fi 7. So they're claiming a peak performance of 46 gigabits per second in perfect laboratory conditions. Of course, the real world will be different, but that is impressive to have that much greater of performance with Wi-Fi than the previous generation. It does this with a variety of different techniques by getting the most out of the available frequency spectrum available by taking advantage of the new 6 gigahertz spectrum, as well as various technical behind-the-scenes techniques to squeeze every bit of performance it can. One of the other major things that Wi-Fi 7 is doing is something called multi-link operations. Now, in previous generations of Wi-Fi, what you had is that when you connected to either 2.4 gigahertz spectrum or you connected to the 5 gigahertz, or with the newer one, you connected to 6 gigahertz. So you didn't connect to all three, you connected to one of those, and that is what you were connected to. Well, with multi-link operations, with the new Wi-Fi 7 spec, it is going to allow the possibility to send and receive data over all those three of those frequency bands at the same time. So this should open up a lot of new possibilities for reliability and performance increases by allowing Wi-Fi 7 devices to make the most use of all the spectrum available and not just be channeled into one of those pieces of the spectrum pie. And finally, the Wi-Fi 7 does promise to have significant improvements in efficiency, including battery and battery life efficiency, as well as latency. So overall, Wi-Fi 7 sounds great. So is this something you should rush out and upgrade for? Probably not. So Wi-Fi 7 sounds great. Why shouldn't you run out and just replace all your gear with this brand new great Wi-Fi technology? Well, two reasons really. The first is you're not going to find much that supports Wi-Fi 7. This video was filmed in the spring of 2024 and the spec is brand new and there's just not a lot out there in the market. And chances are there isn't going to be for quite a while. If you look at the history of the Wi-Fi 6 spec, for example, it came out in 2019 and Wi-Fi 6 gear didn't really become commonly mainstream until about 2022. We expect the same sort of timeline with Wi-Fi 7, and especially with mobile internet gear, it can take sometimes longer than standard consumer gear for new technologies to percolate into that market. So we really expect that it won't be a couple of years until we really see Wi-Fi 7 come into its own in the marketplace. The second reason is that most of the advantages of Wi-Fi 7, you really need to be connected to Wi-Fi 7 devices. So in other words, you have to have a Wi-Fi 7 router or access point and a Wi-Fi 7 device to get all those advantages of that new specification. If you go out and buy a brand new Wi-Fi 7 smartphone and you are connecting it to an older Wi-Fi 5 router, you are not going to be getting all the advantages of the new Wi-Fi 7 technology in that smartphone. And the same goes in the opposite direction. If you have a fancy new Wi-Fi 7 router and you are only connecting older Wi-Fi 5 or 6 devices to it, you are not going to be able to take advantage of all the new features of Wi-Fi 7 in that router. It really matters to have the newer technology on both sides of that connection with Wi-Fi and to have the upgraded devices on both ends. So unfortunately, we got to be a little bit patient, wait for the manufacturers to come through and upgrade devices before we can take advantage of this new Wi-Fi 7 technology. That concludes our look at the Wi-Fi industry and Wi-Fi technology for 2024. Now, here at the Mobile Internet Resource Center, we tend to focus on cellular and satellite technology, but Wi-Fi is a key and important critical technology for bringing everything together, and it is extremely important for both LAN and WAN technology for many users. So it's important for you to understand the different technological generations, and especially when you go to choose new equipment, to understand what you are getting when you choose a new device, what the Wi-Fi generations mean, and we hope this video has been helpful to you. Just to reiterate our recommendations, and as a reminder, this video was shot in the spring of 2024. We do recommend that you get Wi-Fi 6 gear as a minimum and Wi-Fi 6E if you can, and as time goes on and Wi-Fi 7 gear becomes available, to prioritize that. Now, as you upgrade your gear, we recommend focusing on getting the highest standards you can on your routers, as that is the backbone of your connectivity arsenal. So when you upgrade your other devices like your computers and your laptops with newer devices that have higher standards, they will immediately be able to take advantage of the newer standard that the router offers. So that's our recommendation. Please leave us a comment below and tell us what you think. What standard are you using for your router and your devices? Are you planning on upgrading your gear soon? What do you think of the new Wi-Fi 7 standard? And do you plan to be an early adopter? Let us know down below. And if you like this type of video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And we also have a companion article that goes with this video that has a lot more detail than what we went through here on the different Wi-Fi specifications as well as our recommendations. We also have a couple of guides that go really deep into Wi-Fi, including a lot of exclusive content for our members. We do have a membership program. It's our members who fund all the content we do here. So if you're interested in our membership program, please check that out. A link is in the description below. So we appreciate you listening. Stay connected, enjoy the Wi-Fi, and we'll see you next time.
These videos are brought to you by our premium members, our mobile internet aficionados. They make it possible for us to track this news and create these videos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, or better yet, consider becoming a member yourself.